Gather round, everyone, and prepare to be swept away by the thrilling exploits of Gino Cuddy, Clive Davis, and Nick Sheehan as they embark on a daring journey across the silent screen. They'll ride through the annals of film history, recounting the captivating saga of the silver screen's very first Western superstar. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Heart to Heart, the William S. Hart podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 13 of Heart to Heart, the William S. Hart podcast. I'm, of course, one of your hosts, Gino Cuddy, and I'm here with my regular co-hosts, Clive Davis and Nick Sheehan. We are continuing to shuffle through the filmography of William S. Hart, at least the surviving filmography or the filmography that we have access to. And tonight we have a rather interesting double bill. We have The Cradle of Courage and The Testing Block, both from 1920. And so let's start off with The Cradle of Courage, which was released October 17th, 1920. It was produced by the William S. Hart Company. It was distributed by Paramount Artcraft, and it was directed by Lambert Hillier, with a screenplay by Lambert Hillier from a story by Frederick Bradbury. And it was photographed by Joe August. The art director was J.C. Hoffner, with art titles by Harry Barndollar. The cast consists of Square Kelly being portrayed by William S. Hart, Rose Tierney being portrayed by Ann Little, Charles Tierney being portrayed by Thomas Sanchi, Mother Kelly being portrayed by Gertrude Clare, Jim Kelly being portrayed by Francis Thorwald, and Lieutenant Riley being portrayed by George Williams. And the plot of this film is, from the Cradle of Courage, the American expeditionary force in Europe comes back to San Francisco. Square Kelly, with a fine record, though a former leader of a gang of crooks, his chum is the son of a police captain, and the latter feels so kindly disposed toward Square that he offers the ex-burglar a place on the force. None of Square's friends is at the wharf to meet him, and he feels inclined to make a complete change in his life. On encouraging them at their hangout, however, they convince him there is only one existence possible and enlists his services in a prospective raid. His own mother encourages this, but not Rose, adopted daughter of the gang leader Tierney. It is this girl who has preserved a clean mind in unclean surroundings who decides the future of Square. Once in police service, after a bitter struggle with Tierney, Square lays for his former Confederates at a house they intend to rob. He finds Rose lurking there and unjustly accuses her of hypocrisy, whereas she has haunted the place to save him from being croaked. He finally traps the gang at work, and in a running fight, his own brother is killed. Square does not have this to soil his career, for the shot was fired by one of the gang when the erring brother refused to shoot Square. In plain clothes, Square visits his mother and reveals that the crooks were responsible for the killing and converts her to his better ideals. He also dares invade the den of the gang. He is badly wounded there, but he breaks up the gang and is rescued by Rose. By her and his transformed mother, he is nursed back to health. In the true love of loyal Rose, he finds reason to be profoundly glad that he has been taught to master himself. So what did we think of The Cradle of Courage? This is a rare non-Western for William S. Hart, and it was one of two that was produced around this time. The other one being The Whistle, which we're going to be reviewing on the next episode. So what did you guys think of The Cradle of Courage? I'll get into my thoughts in a little while here.
Well, I think first off, we should say that something working against this film unfairly. And if you're going to watch it, you might want to consider turning off the audio, because it has an irritatingly repetitive piano score. Like, it's one of the laziest piano scores I think I've ever. It's the same motif over and over and over again, and I had to turn it off because it was driving me batty. And
this is the Alpha Video copy. There is another copy out there released by Great Video, and I'm not sure as to if the soundtrack on that particular edition is an improvement. I don't own that edition, so this came from my Alpha Video collection. But yeah, you're right. The scores actually for both films actually were rather grating, and
yes.
were did not at all match the action of the film.
Well, certainly the second film we'll be talking about, yeah, it doesn't match it. It's totally inappropriate and annoyingly repetitive. In this case, it's just annoyingly repetitive, but I thought it kind of matched it. But yeah, just turn it off and you'll enjoy the film a lot more, I would
Or
say.
I brought this up before, but you have another option, especially if you have, like, you're watching on a computer, of opening up another window and
Mhm.
playing other music. So I tend to soundtrack these things myself. So I found a best of Ennio Morricone gangster scores, uh, video on YouTube and just ran that behind it, and I got little bits of Once Upon a Time in America and that very nicely complemented
Yeah.
Cradle
I
of
don't
Courage.
like doing that though, just because you probably have a more enjoyable experience. But for me, it just muddies the waters because I realize the soundtracks are enhancing the film
Right, so
more
it's
than,
tell whether or not, yes, you're being fair.
yeah,
Sure. Okay.
yeah. But
Uh,
yes, if you're after, if you're one of those people who likes entertainment, then yes,
mhm,
I can see
mhm.
why you might want to do that. But as you know, I'm very much the hair shirt
Ah,
approach to
yes.
film criticism, where there's a certain masochism involved. But
So it is
yeah,
worth.
no, it's
This is the
interesting
first.
to
Sorry.
see William S. Hart in an urban environment, and
And
he
contemporary, like, because this film was made in 1920 what?
1920.
20, yeah,
1920,
yeah. So,
yeah,
so this film takes place in 1918, right?
Hmm.
Just after the soldiers are coming back. So like, so I think this is the first time we've seen him play a character in the moment, like now, right? Like in contemporary times for when the film was
Hmm.
made.
right.
Well, there was an earlier film that we reviewed where he was in San Francisco, actually, and he was hanging out by the docks. And I
Right.
think Robert Cortman as Moose Halloran came up, and I forget what the name of that film is now.
But yeah, I know, I know
I
what
think
you
it
mean.
was The Narrow Trail, but I could be mistaken on that. It was one of
But he's a
those.
lot more convincing here, I think, as so we get flashbacks as well to his experience in the trenches, and he
Hmm.
obviously is suffering from a certain amount of PTSD, and yeah, he's quite effective at getting that over, I think. Um, Also, Tom Sanchi, right,
Right.
who's also in he's in a film I've not seen, but it's always on when you get those box sets of like like old roadshow scare films and things like Reefer Madness. There's always one on there called 10 Nights in a Bar Room, which I think might have
Ah.
been made a few times. It seems to be a kind of anti-alcohol abstinence film, I'm guessing. So I noticed in his filmography, he's in that.
Hmm.
But in this, um, he he seemed very much to me like as soon as he was on screen, I was like, oh, hang on, is that Lon Chaney? And then, oh no, it's not. But he's giving off like I could see this almost as a Lon
Mm,
Chaney role.
Mm.
yeah.
There's
Okay.
something very much of that Lon Chaney heavy about him. He's
Hmm.
got that kind of, and he's very impressive in this. I don't think I was familiar with Tom Sanchi prior to this, but I quite like the cut of his jib
Hmm.
um, going by this film. But yeah, no, it's not unexceptional maybe, but I thought this one of the two was definitely the solid one, which would which kind of not too surprising or anything, kind of plays out as you more or less expect it to. But yeah, pretty well done for my money. The Cradle of Courage.
Something that I wanted to know before Nick gets into his thoughts, I actually wanted to know what Nick thought of like the Irish stereotyping in this film,
Hmm.
because
Good
of
question.
course, with William S. Hart playing a guy with the last name of Kelly, he becomes a
Hmm.
cop,
Yep.
and his mom speaks, with an accent and everything.
Yep.
So, you must have loved all of this being a man of Irish descent.
I did, and partly because there's also it's not just him, but like Tierney is an Irish name as well, and
Hmm.
so is Riley. All the names, like it's basically like so. Yeah, the The police captain who hires William S. Hart Square Kelly into the force, he's clearly of Irish extraction. They're all of Irish extraction. So that was right away. I was like, okay, this is kind of a little ethnic story of like, so to your point, Clive, I think it's worth remembering that this film comes before, like Warner Brothers got a lot of mileage out of these tropes. The like,
Mm-mm-mm.
you know what I mean? The brothers, one of whom goes into the law, one of whom goes into crime. Or
Yes, yes.
one becomes a priest, one becomes a gangster. But I don't know that that was necessarily the case when this film was made. This film may actually be establishing some of these tropes.
I think it's kind of midpoint
Okay.
between you would have had a few earlier uh, gangster or gangster adjacent films, and yeah, and then like you said, there's the 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 ones that Warner Brothers popularized. So I think this is kind of not necessarily yeah, it's not the origin point,
Mhm.
but you're quite right. It's early on in the development of these kind of stories. So yes, and if actually I'm surprised it doesn't turn up a bit more again because we've talked about this like William S. Hart, you know, uh, being a massive star back in the day, but forgotten by many now. So I'm surprised there when you do look back at those kind of books or documentaries about the development of the Hollywood gangster film.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Cradle of Courage doesn't come up more in discussion, like because is it Underworld around the same time? The Raoul Walsh, the one with the that character with a massive goiter, and it's in the mix there.
Mhm.
So, but I'd never actually heard of Cradle of Courage before.
Yeah, no, me neither. Another revelation for me is actually Gertrude Clare, who plays Mother Kelly.
Yes, she's been
Uh,
in a few of the films that we've reviewed before, but I think she has her best showing in this film.
yeah,
Yeah,
and in reading around the film a little bit, a lot of
the stage actress, right? From what I gathered. Yeah,
um, a lot of people were saying that not only is she very good, but that this character really doesn't exist, almost in Hollywood before this. This kind of Ma Barker, like angry criminal mom who's
yeah.
like, screw the police, up with criminal, like she's kind of great, really.
It's
Yeah,
definitely a nice. It's a nice surprise because you don't think a film of this vintage is going to go that way. But yeah, when she shuns him for and calls him yellow for
You
not
know,
being involved in crime, you're like, oh, okay,
yes,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's an interesting character for sure.
And we have our usual stand-up kind of drag-out fight, which a lot of these films seem to have, but this one's as good as any.
Yeah,
mm.
they're really throwing haymakers at
Haymakers,
each other, right?
yeah, and lots of
It looks
knees.
exhausting, that scene.
Well, it's funny. Like I do find like the choreography is almost more believable sometimes in these films than it is in films that come 20 years later, where things are obviously staged. Whereas this time, yeah, there's something scrappy and chaotic about the fights in
Raw.
William. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, the only thing unrealistic is the undercranking, right? So they
yes.
suddenly, yes, they turn into like it's like watching a couple of uh whirling dervish. I've forgotten his name. What's the thing? The cartoon. Um,
Oh, the Tasmanian Devil.
yes, it's like a couple of Tasmanian devils having a scrap. Yeah.
Right. Um, but interestingly, apparently the actress who played Gertrude Clare was actually only 12 years older than her son. Um, which is, and so some reviews did point out that in actual fact, William S. Hart,
He's a little long in the tooth for
well, he
this.
actually
Mm.
technically he wouldn't have been allowed to go fight. Like he would have been past draftable age for
Yes,
World War
they'd have
One.
said, "Fuck off, granddad." Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, so he is, but you know what? He's William S. Hart, so I can suspend my disbelief.
Yes, like I said, it's a good performance from him, I think, and it is nice to see him in the urban mode. And it's not jarring. That's the thing.
No,
Sometimes when you're used to someone in that rugged outdoorsman and they suddenly turn
mm.
up in a suit, it just doesn't fly, right? But I
no,
had
he
no
does.
problems with it
No,
here.
he does, and he looks good both in his kind of like peaked cap, Peaky Blinders, gangster gear, and he also looks good in his cop uniform. Like he's
We need a William S. Hart ultimate figure from NECA Toys, where you could literally dress him up as the cowboy character,
Mm.
or as the character
the
from this
Aztec
film.
Prince, or don't forget the Aztec Prince, or whatever he was in.
Yes.
I want to make the commercial for it with the three of us acting like children, like they did in those ages. That we're all go, look at his hat. I'm going to put him on his horse. William S. Hart. William S. Hart Ranger.
Yes, Clive, we need to do
That would
this.
be great.
And then let's not forget also that Square Kelly's brother is Jim Kelly, who's mostly famous for having appeared in Enter the Dragon.
And Black Belt Jones.
And Black Belt Jones.
This was his white face period, I believe.
I mean, honestly, it did throw me every time his name appeared in the title cards. I was like, Jim Kelly? Oh no, it's not my Jim Kelly. But yeah, no, it's funny. I got along with this very well. I enjoyed the change of pace. I enjoyed the kind of the contemporary setting, or the then contemporary setting. Loved Gertrude as Mother Kelly. Yeah, and you know, it was interesting. I mean, it's some of the same stuff we see in the West. I mean, it's still it is still bad man goes good in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saved by the love of a good woman, all that stuff. But different enough maybe because of the setting where, yeah, it didn't feel tired to me.
Well, that's probably, I mean, if we're really going to nitpick, that is probably the only element that lets the film down a little bit and does feel is everything else, the move to a contemporary San Francisco and everything, I feel as if it all feels very authentic, but the kind of immaculate love interest character, that feels, that's from another time and place and genre, and that doesn't ring true. I thought that, not to throw shade on the actress, I think she's doing the best that she can with that role, but it's a slightly simpering, one-dimensional, because all the other characters are quite kind of, they're a lot more nuanced and interesting, and then hers is it's a little wonder, but then that could also just be the slight kind of sexism of old Hollywood, where actresses weren't necessary, well, apart from older character actresses like the mother, but when we're talking, you know, young women, sometimes they just had to be pretty and innocent, and that's all that is expected from them.
Thinking about, you know, another actress cut from the same cloth, it's obvious, Clive, that you've never heard of the infamous Texas Gwynyon.
Say that again?
Texas Gwynyon.
Who is this?
She was a rather interesting character who was basically a rebellious cowgirl and some short films and in some features. There's actually some of her films are available from Alpha Video, and I believe Grapevine has also released some. But yeah, she was basically like the Mae West of her day in the silent era, really, if you really think about it. Like, look into Texas Gwynyon. We might even review some of her films for Film Crack. Very interesting actress.
But again, exception that proves the rule, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd be interested in seeing that for sure.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Not heard of her, no.
As far as my thoughts of this film, I thought it was okay. Of the two films that he made around this time that take him out of the Western setting, even though I've seen this film now and I've already seen The Whistle, which we're going to review next episode, I still think The Whistle is the stronger of the two films.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it then.
I think it's a better story, stronger, more compelling performances, certainly. And it also has the added advantage of having Robert Portman in it, who is always a welcome sight in these films. But as far as Cradle of Courage, I thought it was decent for what it was. I mean, it's not an Academy Award winner by any stretch of the imagination, but I think William S. Hart pulls off another great performance in this film, and I did like his interplay with Gertrude Claire's character. And you know, what I found interesting is we never get that. I guess it would be satisfying moment where at the end of the film, Gertrude Claire's character says, "I was wrong." She never really admits to being wrong.
Right.
So she still might be a cop hater and, you know, want to be rebellious.
Stubborn Irish.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Also,
we
do you
never
know?
really get that closure with her character.
Also, do you know you mentioned the Academy Award winners? Don't forget, some Academy Award winners aren't Academy Award winners either. I draw your attention to Driving Miss Daisy being the most egregious example that springs to mind, right?
As you know, Forrest Gump is up there for me in things that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
should never
yeah.
have been given an Oscar. But
So even the Academy can't be trusted.
it's
Mm.
one review. I think it was maybe Movies Silently. They pointed out something that I do kind of agree with. I wish they'd gotten more mileage out of. There's a moment in the film where William S. Hart's character thinks he's killed his brother, and almost immediately he figures out that it wasn't him.
Right, right,
And I
right, right.
feel like if they pulled that apart, if they'd spent a little longer with him struggling with this idea that like, oh, I've gone to the good side and now I've done a terrible thing and I've killed my own brother, it would have been
Yeah.
it would have raised the emotional stakes of the film a little bit. But for whatever reason, they just kind of very quickly breeze past it, and
Mm,
although like when he shows up to his mom and he's not in the cop uniform, and she's giving him a hard time. He says like, "Oh, I'm not here. I'm not here as a policeman. I'm basically here as an avenging angel of death."
Yes.
Right? And then she's like, "Oh, well, in that case, you're welcome, son," and gives him a hug, and then hands him the gun so we can go off
Very
and
interesting looking gun in this. I wouldn't mind, I
yeah.
mean, I'm not a gun enthusiast. I don't think any of us here at this table are gun enthusiasts, but it would be interesting to, show a picture of that gat to a gun enthusiast and be like, what kind of a gun even is
Is it
this?
is it his old service revolver, I
Well, I
thought?
thought it
Yeah.
was the one he wrestled off of a German officer.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so.
I think it's actually so. I think it's a German like gun from the trenches that he's like,
Hmm.
yeah, in that flashback where you see him struggling with a German
Yeah, it's like a
soldier.
Mauser or something. It's like,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
cool looking gun though.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, as I said, I think if you're looking for a William S. Hart that's slightly outside the norm, this is as good a choice as any. Although, well, we'll see. We'll see. Perhaps next week. Well, next episodes will be better. But I liked it.
And
Yeah.
you're quite right. I know fuck all about guns, Gino, because I just said a Mauser and I looked up a Mauser, and a Mauser is a rifle that doesn't look anything like the pistol in question. So, yeah,
Although you
don't
know what,
come to me
I
with any questions about
I
firearms.
I think I also thought that a Mauser was a kind of pistol as well. So
Right.
hmm.
It might be a Walther or something like that, some sort of. Nah, that's a bit more of a
There
complex.
is
Why am I continuing with pretending as if I know about firearms when I clearly don't? I'm going to be
there
quiet now.
there there is though an internet rifle or internet firearm database. I
Right,
know. So
right.
maybe they have some intel on what this is. Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe we could look that up and we could attach that later to like the show notes or something. But yeah, very interesting looking gun in this. Um the problem that I had with this film, and it could be just the picture quality, is the fact that a lot of it is dark,
Right.
and when you're dealing with a film that is in black and white and is being shot at night in some scenes and everything, and it's of this vintage and it's not the best print in the world, it makes for rough viewing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was kind of cool, in the sequence when he finally gets in the house and, he's, and they're having like a bit of a shootout, but you only see like brief glimpses of what the action actually is going on in that house.
yeah,
Like, it's like 1 second, like, oh, boom, boom, boom. You don't really get to
right.
see any fluid fighting or gunplay at all.
You
Yeah.
mentioned the movie Silently site,
Mhm.
Nick. Didn't I'm thinking, aren't the screenshots on there maybe from a different, better
Possibly they
print?
might be
And also, didn't they have like blue tinting, maybe some of the scenes?
Maybe the
Yeah.
version that we watched didn't.
yeah.
No, 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 no. But so yes, and plus, well, I think they do go out of their way to mention the nice photography as well in that review. So yes, maybe if you're going to watch this film, maybe try and go out of your way to find
Of course, another print,
the
yeah.
better print
Mhm.
as possible, right? For maximum viewing enjoyment, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, IMDb has some nice still photographs from it as well that are
They
not.
could be from stills, though, maybe.
I
So
think they
that,
are from stills.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think they're
Mhm.
from a print. But it's just nice. Oh, it's nice just to see some other pictures from the film. All right, are we done with? Are we getting back to the Old West?
Yeah, I think I've said my piece on Cradle of Courage. It's I think this and the whistle. When we finally get to that, I think that they were interesting experiments. From Paramount to see how he would do in a non-Western. And it's quite clear that people weren't willing to accept him in anything but a Western because what happens is he's planted right back into the Old West with this next film and a few of the other films that come after it.
the Cradle of
So
Courage as well could do with a snappier title, I think.
yeah,
Cradle
very
of Courage
true.
doesn't really tell you what the film you're going to see is, really,
Mm,
does it?
right, exactly. Not the best title in the world, but I don't know. Again, I'm going to say this right here. This is something I've said numerous times in the past about William S. Hart, and that's that I don't think he ever made a bad film, but he has certainly made his fair share of mediocre films, and I think this one
Yeah.
lies in that vein. I think this one is in that vein. And truth be told, and we'll get to it, but I think the next one that we're going to be reviewing is kind of also in that same vein.
Yes. Yes.
A few episodes back when we reviewed, I believe it was the Square Deal Man and Wolf Lowry, Clive had mentioned that we may have plateaued, and with this series of films, these two right here, I mean, The Tollgate being an outlier, being an absolutely excellent film, I think
Hmm.
we might have plateaued with his career. I think we're basically, at least up until Tumbleweeds, perhaps. I think that we are basically flatlining here.
Hmm.
But I mean, not bad films, not bad at all,
No, no,
like
I
not
don't.
horrible, but yeah, middle of the road.
Yeah, there's the bloom is off the rose a little bit. I don't think that's unfair to say because it happens in almost all cinematic careers eventually. It's almost
Yeah,
inevitable, right? You can count on one hand probably anyone who's had a career which is just all the way bangers, evergreen that,
Hmm.
it just doesn't happen, right? It's a law of diminishing returns. So yeah,
it
no, I
ebbs
think
and
you're quite
flows.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, it does feel as if we're in this the fallow
We're
period.
coasting a little bit now. I feel like like as
Yes,
a
because he's done so many things as well,
yes.
right? So it's inevitable that it's going to start to seem slightly repetitive, or that he's, just getting kind of. I mean, how old is he by now? He's
Well, I know when he does Tumbleweeds, he's at least a good 60 years old, and that's 1925. So he's
right. So he's
probably
mid
edging
50s. He
towards,
looks about mid
yeah,
50s, right?
yeah.
So, and yes, and sometimes maybe thrown into some of these roles, but it's clearly supposed to be a slightly younger man. He's probably maybe kind of questioning, you know.
He's in his Roger Moore phase of realizing that the actress he's been asked to bed is not only young enough to be his daughter, but young enough to be his granddaughter. That's when Roger Moore finally actually quit, was when he was like, no, that girl is
Yeah.
like young enough to be my
Yeah,
grandchild.
yeah. See, Roger Moore, no sense. That's when it starts getting good, man. Anyway,
Well, at
the
least Roger Moore
testing.
had the good sense to turn down the Zardoz script. Unfortunately, Sean Connery didn't have that same. Could you imagine William S. Hart and Zardoz in that outfit?
That's the man diaper. Now, in fairness to, you guys know that my dad used to fix Sean Connery's car, so I will never have anything bad said about the great Sean
Did
Connery.
he ever fix his jock strap though? That's the
I
question.
don't. I'll ask my dad. I'll ask him next time
Yes,
I talk to him.
I
Um,
like Zardoz. It's so weird. I have
Yeah,
to have a certain grudging respect for it that anyone made a film so strange.
and he
right.
used to live up the road from me too.
John Borman,
John Borman. Yeah, he used to
well,
live in
I think he owned half of Ireland or something, didn't he?
County Wicklow, which is the
Yeah.
capital. Yeah. Um, but anyway, we're straying a little far from. So I will say, of everything else aside, this film has my favorite title card of any of these William S. Hart films we've seen so far. It is, and it shows a rogues gallery of like painted, like so an artist has painted the faces of his gang, and the title card just says, "Collected by the broom that swept hell."
Yes, I like that. And aren't there like
Fantastic.
fire effects underneath that too?
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes,
a fantastic title
that
card.
is good. Yeah, that's by far the best bit of the entire film. Yeah,
Yeah, I
no, that
mean
was pretty
Harry
sweet.
Barn. What's his name? Who did the art titles on these? Harry Barndollar, who did the art titles in these and did
That's
the
a great
paintings.
name
That is
too.
a great
Yeah,
name.
great
Yeah.
name, but also fantastic painting work. Like I would love to see if there are any originals of these still around, from when he did them, because they're magnificent paintings by themselves.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'd
beautiful
hang
art
one on my
titles.
wall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd buy that for a barn dollar.
Oh, you're a quick man there, Clive. You're a clever man there, Clive. Um,
And now we're going to be moving on to the second film in our discussion tonight, which is The Testing Block, which was released December 26, 1920. It was produced by the William S. Hart Company and distributed by Paramount Artcraft. It was directed by Lambert Hillier with a screenplay by Lambert Hillier from a story by William S. Hart. It was photographed by Joe August with art direction by J.C. Hoffner. And the cast consists of Sierra Bill, being portrayed by William S. Hart, Nellie Gray, being portrayed by Ava Novak, Ringe, being portrayed by Gordon Russell, Rosita, being portrayed by Florence Carpenter, Sonny, being portrayed by Richard Hedrick, and Slim, being portrayed by Ira McFadden. Sierra Bill is the leader of a band of outlaws in the days of the California Gold Rush. His physical strength and courage are dominant, but his moral fiber has never stood the quote unquote testing block of really bitter experience. In a raid to collect a reward offered for himself, he comes upon a poster of Nellie Gray, violinist in a band of strolling players. He and his men intercept the players and compel a performance. Nellie's violin plays havoc with the bandit's heart. He gives her a bag of gold and rides away with his followers, but not to forget her. Neither has Ringe, one of the bandits. The gold is taken by the managers of the players, and they leave the rest of the troop stranded. The bandits decide to capture the women and draw lots for them. Sierra Bill wants first choice and proposes to fight for it. In order to be on par with his drunken mates, he drinks his fill. He downs one after another of the band and rides away. On reaching the hotel where the players are stranded, Bill encounters a justice of the peace. Half crazed by drink, Bill drags the justice up to Nellie Gray's room and forces a marriage. He then carries off the girl. Billy and Nellie are man and wife 2 years later and have a little baby boy. Bill is mining gold with fair success when Ringe comes along with a Mexican girl he is tired of and plots to steal lovely Nellie. With the aid of others, he induces Nellie to leave her husband, ruins Bill at the gambling table, and gets his Pinto. He causes Bill to be arrested and taunts his jailed victim that his wife has gone and his child sick. Bill is half crazed and uses his insane strength to break through the roof of the jail. He manages to send for Nellie and wreaks his vengeance on Ringe. Nellie returns to find the Mexican girl nursing the child, the doctor in despair because the little one cannot sleep. Nellie now learns of the conspiracy and uses her wits to save her child. She does so by playing her violin. She is thus occupied, happily succeeding when Bill returns a changed man, a nobler one, since he has passed through bittersweet sorrow and misery on the quote unquote testing block. So let me get into my thoughts on the testing block. I thought this was a much better film than Cradle of Courage. I thought, at least anyway. Um, and with the whole sequence of the child becoming sick, the wife coming home, and everything else, it just put me in mind of an earlier film we reviewed in this podcast, The Disciple. So there are echoes of that in this film. So there might be a little bit of William S. Hart's greatest hits going on here. And as we have to mention as well, as we did with Cradle of Courage, unfortunately, this version of the film that we watched did not have the greatest soundtrack. So that does detract somewhat from the viewing, but the film is still a worthy film to see regardless of that. Some good acting. Gordon Russell is particularly nasty and sleazy as the villain of the piece, Ringe. And I believe he returns in Bill's ultimate film, which is Tumbleweeds in 1925. So good performance there. Ava Novak, always a pleasure to see her. And, William S. Hart is such a hellraiser, at least in the early parts of this film, which, is always a pleasure to see. I love the beginning parts of this film where he's toying with the sheriff. Love it. Love it. So.
I think you're being kind. He's a nut job in this part of this film. Like
I quite
when,
like the
when
first
he's
half.
when he's trying to, track down the fiddling woman or whoever that he's fallen in love. The singing, like that stuff is like, whoa! This is a crazed fan, right? This is he feels kind of dangerous in those scenes,
Oh,
doesn't he?
yeah.
Like,
A little bit of Blue Blazes Rawdon creeping up, you would say.
Yes. And you mentioned as well the I've fucking forgotten the title now. The film you just mentioned,
The Disciple.
Yes, and I think that might be part of the problem is if you compare, it's well, we have The Disciple at home, right? Why would I go out to see The Testing Block? And yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned your plot synopsis. Listen to your plot synopsis. It's like, boy, that sounds like an exciting film. And it sounds not like the film that I just watched. There's something about this film I found very underwhelming, and it's very difficult to pinpoint why exactly, because there is a lot going on. I think one of the things might be when it starts off in the Sierras and they mention the gold rush. I think that's slightly wrong-footing the viewer, because I was expecting a gold rush film or with the gold rush background and up in the high Sierra. So this is a kind of a background that I like in films. And then there's almost no talk of any sort of
stakes or gold.
gold rush. Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay. So, and also I was expecting a lot more, like we flash to like the same background shot of trees a few times, and that's about it. So I was expecting a lot more kind of
Gold Rush vibes in this.
And like high altitudes and that kind of
in mining and him being in a cave
yeah.
and all that, which there's none of that. Basically, all you see him doing is chopping wood and
exactly
living in this cabin. There's it's supposed to be taking place during the gold rush, but there is no Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush has more to do with the gold rush than this film does.
A lot more spectacular. Yeah, so I think that's the thing is I felt as if I'd been promised a kind of visual feast, a banquet, and someone gave me Kentucky Fried Chicken instead.
Yes, good, very good, Clive. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to like this film more than I did because of his performance in this. But as I stated before, I think he, at least during this phase of his career, I think maybe he doesn't realize it or not, but he is effectively winding down. And he is plateauing. I think at this stage in the game, I think he's looking at himself as I did Hell's Hinges, I did The Toll Gate, I've done these, robust films. I have nothing more to prove. And I think that comes through in some of these later films where they're still good, fun to watch, but they're inessential, really inessential to view.
So something that just struck me just now, I hadn't given this any thought prior, so forgive me if it's a half-baked notion, but you mentioned that, and because in relation to like Hell's Hinges and High Plains Drifter, for example, we've mentioned Clint Eastwood before, right? And I wonder if that might have been Clint Eastwood's future career path might have been something that would have suited William S. Hart. I mean, I don't know how much in terms of ambitions to direct he had, but that kind of would have made sense at this point, right? If he would have migrated to behind the camera, and then that would have he could, because that's what happened to Clint Eastwood. I think it reinvigorated his life in front of the camera as well, right? Because
Right.
he's learning his craft in a different way and
On both
expanding.
sides of the
Yeah,
equation,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Because it
But
can be frustrating, I think, if if you are at all, because I feel that William S. Hart is one of those. He's not just like a gun for hire, to forgive the pun, but he does feel like someone who has a kind of auteur like worldview or something like that. And I think it can be frustrating when you're always, even though he's working with, like how long has he been working with Lambert Hillier now? So it's almost as if you have a conjoined twin or something kind of doing the
Right.
directing for
A
you.
tried and true contributor.
Yeah, yeah, but still, it must have been sometimes very, frustrating to not be able to take control of the whole thing yourself.
Yeah,
And
I find it
yeah,
interesting by this stage in his career, he's no longer directing the films like as he had been
yeah,
when he was with Ince.
yeah,
Now they're
and
being
even
strictly
then,
directed by Hillier.
yeah, and even then, it was the co-directing thing, right? Rather than, I don't know if there's any solo William S. Hart directed films,
Yeah,
right? They're usually in collaboration with someone else, and
yeah.
also you do wonder, how much of that was, how much was that a genuine collaboration, or was it actually someone else and it was, like a token kind of, I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting that he stops. You'd think it would go the other way. You'd think he'd take command of the whole thing, right, and
Right.
run the show. And I'm wondering if that's why the malaise has set in a little bit, is that he's handed it over, and maybe what he should have done. I don't know. I'm not judging the man at all, but I'm just spitballing just some things that have occurred to me now listening to you speak.
well, the other thing that I would say then, if we're thinking about Clint Eastwood's career as it has having, quite a lot of parallels to William S. Hart's. But one thing that he did later on was really start to kind of pick apart his own mythology, right? He really started to kind of,
Right.
and that's something that I don't know that we'll see. I mean, it actually does happen in some of the films, but it'd be interesting. I don't necessarily know we'll see it go in that same way. Is there going to be like an Unforgiven or whatever sort of a, um,
Or when we see show people, which I guess it's more of an extended cameo or everything, does he just turn up, hey, it's William S. Hart, or is it like, is he parodying the William S. Hart? Have you actually seen show people
Yeah,
yet?
I don't know if there really is now that you're bringing that up. I don't know if there really is a point to reviewing Show People as a whole work because he only has like a 2-second cameo in it. And basically, the sequence that involves him is he's sitting at a table with a bunch of like screen legends, like people who were even thought of to be legends at that time. And he's sitting
Right.
there, basically in his full cowboy outfit, I guess pointing a gun at somebody. And it's basically like a blink and you miss it type of cameo. So, but it was sort of, I guess he was poking a little bit of fun at his image. I mean, you got to remember too that there were people at this time parodying him, like
Mm.
Buster Keaton, most famously, and he also is parodied in a Felix the Cat cartoon called Felix in Hollywood, created around this
Oh,
time.
hey, need to
Yeah,
watch that.
and
Uh,
yeah, there's a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities of the day in that cartoon. So yeah, I mean, his presence, he was certainly in the public consciousness to the point where he was starting to get, poked and prodded at and parodied. And I don't know if he necessarily appreciated that. I know he didn't appreciate it with Keaton, but yeah, I mean, the
oh, he
plateauing of
wasn't
it.
amused. He wasn't amused by the Keaton parodies.
No, I don't think he was. No.
Oh, interesting.
And I think actually because of this, he and Keaton didn't speak for many years. Um,
That's interesting, isn't it? Because he strikes, I mean, obviously we don't know the man in any capacity, but he strikes me as a man who would have had a good sense of humor. But I'm not overly I mean, are the Keaton
well,
parodies
okay,
some way
if we really
unfair,
want,
or
well, if we really
yeah,
want to get into the whole Keaton Hart dynamic here, I think it's worth bringing up, and I think we brought it up in an extended conversation, which I ultimately decided, needed to be omitted from our review. But I guess we could bring it up here now and discuss it again. The main reason why Keaton made The Frozen North the parody of William S. Hart is because William S. Hart had vocalized his disdain and his disagreement with the common opinion in Hollywood that Fatty Arbuckle was not guilty. He actually
right.
And since Keaton worked with Arbuckle numerous times and credits Arbuckle for jumpstarting his career, hearing William S. Hart basically talk down about a guy that he really loved, made him hate William S. Hart and made him want to create this parody and make this parody of his emoting and everything else. And I think William S. Hart saw that as a direct attack. And that's why I think the two never spoke for many years. I don't know, honestly, if they ever reconciled. They might have, they might not have. I'm hoping for both of their sakes that they did. But yeah, so
So
if
have
you want
you
to know,
seen the Frozen North? Do you know?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you bring up the Frozen North. I have seen it. It's been a while since I saw it because my friend Ben Minot of the Oddity Archive actually played it before playing Hell's Hinges, my version of Hell's Hinges, when I guest collaborated with him on that public domain theater live stream. So I did get a chance to see that.
So in your opinion, either of your opinions, is it a spiteful or kind of hateful parody, or is it actually fairly reasonable and
No, and I would also say, honestly, if I didn't know, if I hadn't been directly told that this is a parody of a William S. Hart, and specifically kind of the whatever the other snowbound northern kind of wilderness William S. Hart film we saw, I can't remember what the title was, but
There was Blue Blazes Rawdon, Wolf Lowry, that comes to mind. The Darkening Trail,
right,
that was way early on.
any of those snowy ones anyway, basically.
Yeah.
But really, other than at the very beginning, where there's a couple of scenes where he actually does kind of have the cowboy look and stuff, yeah, it doesn't seem to be coming from
As a parody, it misses the mark.
yeah, kind of it does. Like I wouldn't have necessarily known that like, oh, this is specifically parodying William S. Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I
okay?
don't know. Yeah, anyway.
No, I was just kind of curious. It's always interesting to look at this kind of wider context, seeing as we are talking, seeing as the films maybe have a little less for us to get our teeth into, and it is kind of interesting to consider the career trajectory and what's going on around him. And I mean, in terms of, let's say, the Western as well, right? Who at this time, who are the new young usurpers to the crown?
Now you're talking my language here a little bit.
I thought I might be.
Because this is around the time William S. Hart's popularity is starting to wane a little bit.
Right.
Because of flashier, more action-laden cowboy stars like Tom Mix are coming into the fold. I believe this is December of 1920. I believe he's either thinking about or had just started, his association with William Fox. Tom Mix had. Because in 1922 we get Sky High, which is one of the only extant Fox Tom Mix films, and is a great example of Mix's work.
So I know Tom Mix by reputation more than I do the films. Is that the thing with Tom Mix? I suppose, especially in comparison with was Tom Mix bringing a much more dynamic, action-packed type of Western?
Yes, and wearing flashier outfits, the white hat, black hat type of dynamic, and it was a different kind of Western that was being created at this time by guys like Tom Mix. And Ken Maynard was about to start his films in 1924.
So a little more cartoonish, a little bit more cartoonish, maybe.
We were sort of distancing ourselves from the morality plays and the authentic aesthetic of a William S. Hart film and veering more into that romanticized version of the West, where it's black hat, white hat, fist
Right.
fights and gunplay.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
So I think that's interesting because obviously you're so immersed in this. Um, Sometimes it's easy to take for granted that, for me, for example, I wouldn't necessarily have known that. So I think it's good to. I'm sure you as well, Nick.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of an
I
education,
mean,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get into this more, and we could analyze this more when we finally get to tumbleweeds.
Mm.
But I view tumbleweeds, now that, I've come to do a lot of research and everything else. I initially didn't care for tumbleweeds, but now that I've seen it and I have done the research and everything, I see it as kind of a profound work and sort of an autobiographical work for William S. Hart
It does
because
have that reputation for sure. Yeah.
because pardon me, because of the fact that it's essentially the old West saying goodbye and a new West starting. So,
Right.
so in that film, as we'll see when we finally get to it, Bill basically is sitting on top of Fritz, takes his hat off and says, "Well, boys, it's the end of the West as we know it." And I think that's emblematic of what William
Yes.
S. Hart was seeing with the rise of cowboys like Tom Mix and everything. I think that's what he was sort of
Right.
not too subtly poking and prodding at. I mean,
We'll
again,
get
we
to
could
it.
talk about this more when we discuss
Yeah, we'll
tumbleweeds,
get to
but
it when we
it's,
get to, like you said, but I remember, yeah, I've only ever seen Tumbleweeds the one time many years ago, and I do remember thinking, oh, this feels like the Once Upon a Time in the West of the 20s.
That's
It's
okay. I was going
got
to say,
that
or like
kind
My
of,
Name is Nobody is the other thing that springs to mind of that kind of like westerns that
I don't
signal
know.
kind of
My
shape.
Name is Nobody seems a bit more like a Tom Mix.
It is no, but it is deliberately silly and over the top, but
Yes,
it is a
yes,
sense of nostalgia and something lost as because it has what's his face in it, Henry Fonda, right?
mhm.
right.
Playing an older cowboy character who in a way is handing off his legacy
Yeah,
to a younger to Terence Hill, right?
right.
Um, but hmm. So I have to say, I think I might have liked this more than either. That's very Irish. I think I might have liked this more than either of you. So well, I mean, the first half anyway. I mean, I like with you, Gino. I really enjoyed when he rises to town. He's like all this stuff taunting the sheriff, like he's stolen the sheriff's horse at some point previous. I always like him in his beard Batman, like looking face masks that he's got in some of
Yeah.
these bandit films. Um, I like
Killing Joke era
yes,
Batman. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I like as I said, the villain I thought was great. Loved his handlebar mustache and the soul patch.
He kind of looked like Warner Olin to me in a way.
Yes, yes. And then a little bit of I like Rosarita, the
Mhm.
Mexican. She was the prognosticator. Um,
How
yeah.
dare you? Wash your mouth out with soap and water.
um, Prognosticator is not a bad word, Clive. Um,
Sure sounds bad to me.
Yeah,
um,
it's like the word parasite. I don't know what it means, but it sure sounds bad. I
Sounds
got to go
doesn't
ask
sound good.
Broadway Hammersley what that word means.
Um, Another thing that's important is this is a very important message about literacy and the
Mhm.
necessity of being a literate man. Because as we see when the sneakiness is done and when his wife leaves him because she thinks he's cheating and also is going to go back and become a criminal again, she leaves him a Dear John letter that he finds on the table and can't read it. And yeah, that's
She calls him a
And
filthy
then it's said later
procrastinator.
when he's in the jail cell that she sent me all these letters and I'd show them to you, but a little arrogant cayuse like you can't even read. So
yes, yeah. That whole scene actually, that's an amazing scene, I think. That's
yeah,
where Jay Gordon is taunting him through the bars and just like and then not only he basically says like, "I'm going to ride your horse to death," and he more or less says the same thing about his wife. He basically says there's a
yeah.
line, kind of a very sketchy line that kind of goes like, "Yeah, and I'm going to be just as rough on her as you were," basically, and they're like, "Oh, dude."
But
Um,
I will say Ringe does get a rather
yes.
his comeuppance.
It's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, I jumped up when he gets I rewound to be like, did he just get trampled? Like deliberately trampled
Mhm.
by the Pinto. Um, yeah, no. So as I said, I mean, The back half with the sick child, yes, we've seen it before. It gets into that maudlin, slightly saccharine territory. The kid's
Yes.
cute, though. It's got a big mop of yellow curls. Um, so yeah, I don't know. This for me, yeah, even William S. Hart in coasting mode, in plateau mode, uh, still
I mean,
fine.
again, I'm going to say this. I don't think the man ever made a bad film, and I think even what people would probably consider his worst films, are still better than a lot of people's best.
Mm.
Like you said it yourself, Nick. I mean, Bill West. When I was talking to him and emailing him back and forth, Bill West being the fellow that works at the Hart Park and museum. Um, he was telling me that he thought The Square Deal Man was single-handedly the worst thing that William S. Hart ever did. But then you came to the table when you finally reviewed that film and said, "Yeah, it's not really that bad."
No.
So again, William S. Hart's worst is still better than a lot of people's best.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think not so much the good, bad, worse, better spectrum. I think it's, for me with this one, it's more the entertaining, boring spectrum. So
Mm-hmm.
for this one, this is probably down there with one of the least engaging of the William S. Hart films that we've watched. Not bad, but
Mm.
I was having a lot of trouble drumming up any enthusiasm for it during my viewing. And the film that you've both been talking about sounds much more entertaining than the one I watched.
So
Um,
not even the scene where he punches out every member of his own gang while heavily drunk. I quite enjoyed
Yeah,
all
that
that,
was fun.
all the forest gang kind of
yeah,
romp
but
stuff.
these little flashes they woke me up, which is always like sometimes that jarring kind of is exciting, but then you need to think about, well, why
Why?
was it so jarring? Like, oh, it's because I was fast
Before.
asleep for 10 minutes before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. But anyway, for me, both of these were fine. I got along with them quite well.
Yeah,
So looking forward actually to seeing this one about industrial, struggles or whatever. Or what's the next one? The factory one, right?
yeah, The Whistle. Yes.
The whistle. Yeah, yeah. I'm quite excited because that very much is in my wheelhouse. I'm always excited to watch anything that's kind of about workers' plight and you know the evil boss, all that stuff.
Nick's ready to man the barricades,
Oh yes, yes, yes. Get the guillotines out.
selling
Mention
your
William S.
copy
Hart's
of
Metropolis.
Yes.
Socialist Worker.
Um, it's funny too. I'm looking at the poster for this on IMDb, not IMDb, on Wikipedia, and realizing Paramount haven't changed their font since 1920, 1920.
Well, I don't think they got the money, see.
Actually, I think Paramount's doing quite well, Clive. I think that they are not.
I mean, if they're going to buy Warner Brothers, I think they're
I
doing
think
pretty well for
I
themselves.
was going to say, I think they own a lot. They're one of those media giants at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I like a consistency of a logo.
Yeah, me
yeah.
too. It's quite cool
They don't feel the need to
to hit
change
it
it.
up. No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
But I think, given that we're now talking about
Font
Paramount's
size.
logo, I think we've run out of
Yes.
things to say for this episode.
Yes.
But
So,
again, I think that's indicative of the fact that we're starting to have a little less to say about these films than we once had, right? So
yeah,
we invariably, because as they say, nature abhors a vacuum, right? So we end up talking about other things. But
You say that, Clive, but I'll definitely be bringing my red and black flags to wave at the our next episode when we talk about the whistle and my
yes.
Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, etc., etc.
Maybe we'll even play a little bit of Guns N' Roses' Welcome to the Jungle.
Yes, yes, let's definitely do that. And perhaps we should also watch that film with The Rock, which I think was titled "Welcome to the Jungle" in England, but not.
right, shut up. We're way off piste now.
No,
Let's
no,
wind it up.
it's also
We're
quite a
talking about The
revolutionary.
Rock and Guns N' Roses. I think
No,
yeah.
no, the connective tissue is strong there, Clive. If you have seen that film, you'd know. I think you have actually, but anyway. Um, All right. Well, I guess, Gino, do you want to take us out?
All right. Well, I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to yet another episode of Heart to Heart, the William S. Hart podcast. I have been Gino Cuddy, and I have been joined by my co-hosts, Nick Sheehan and Clive Davis. You can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music. You can find us there as well. Anywhere where you can find good podcasts like this. And I guess that about does it. In the words of William S. Hart, adios amigos. God bless you all, each and every one.
This has been a Gino Cuddy podcast production.